Happy Tuesday and welcome to Zoo School Live. My name is Marisa. I'm one of the educators here at the zoo. And today I have a very special guest with me. And her name is Creamsicle. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about locomotion and snakes and how they move and how awesome snakes are. So we're going to have a great day today. So I'd like to introduce you to my friend Creamsicle here. Creamsicle is what we call a Nelson's milk snake. So you may have heard the term milk snake before. Here in Pennsylvania, we do have an eastern milk snake that is native to the area. They're kind of a gray and black coloration, and they're about the size of a garter snake, but roughly around the same size as our friend Creamsicle here. Now, Creamsicle, she's what we consider to be a Nelson's milk snake. Now, when we're talking about a Nelson's milk snake, they're just another subspecies of the milk snake family. And this particular subspecies or group is native to Mexico. So where these guys are from, they're from coastal scrublands or tropical forests. So these guys live in pretty warm climates. They live in parts of Mexico that are relatively dry. And our friend Creamsicle here and other Nelson's milk snakes are really going to enjoy burrowing into the ground. They're actually going to spend a lot of their time underground or maybe even in caves or rock formations. Now with these guys, they are absolutely still carnivores. So for Creamsicle here, she's going to be cruising around looking for food. Now, if you've joined us for any of our previous Zoo School Live, some of this information you may have heard it before, which is excellent. And if you're new to Zoo School Live, this might be some new information for you as well. So as Creamsicle's doing her thing, cruising around this dig box that we have, it's kind of like an exercise pen for her. You might notice that she is flicking her tongue out. And when she flicks that tongue out, she's using her tongue to smell her environment. And it does so much more than just smelling, because for Creamsicle, she's going to be using that tongue not just to smell for food, but she's also going to utilize that to help her explore her environment. So it's going to tell her not only where food is, but maybe where predators are and what kind of habitat she's in at the moment. So Creamsicle is going to use that tongue to help her smell. Now, snakes are able to smell because they have a special organ on the roof of their mouth. So for Creamsicle here, on the very roof of her mouth, she's something called a Jacobson's organ or a vemeronasal organ. And that organ, what it does is it sends information straight from her tongue. When she sticks it out, she picks up all the smells in the air. When she pulls that tongue in, it touches that roof of her mouth, right? And when she does that, she's able to send that information straight up to her brain and let her know what she's smelling. So right now you can see she's exploring. She's like, this tastes a little bit like plastic. So she's probably going to be looking for a lot of food items. Creamsicle here, she's already eaten. She only eats actually once every other week. And she's going to eat a mouse here at the zoo. But in the wild, these guys are going to be eating things like birds and lizards and frogs and mice and other rodents and even other snakes. So milk snakes are closely related to king snakes. And that kind of grouping, that family of snakes, is very commonly known to eat other snakes, which is pretty interesting. So for Creamsicle here, she's even able to potentially eat other venomous snakes. Now, she's pretty small, and most other venomous snakes are probably going to be a little bit larger than her in her area. But if she came across a venomous snake, she would be able to definitely stand her ground. Now, talking a little bit about movement, we're going to see Creamsicle just doing a little bit of moving around, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what makes up Creamsicle that allows her to move around so well. So, snakes are not just a head and a tail. And this is a really popular misconception. And so snakes are actually made up out of all different parts of their body that allow them to move around really well and allow them to explore a variety of different environments. So Creamsicle here, she has her head and she certainly has a tail, but her tail is actually only the last few inches of her body. And so really her tail's only this portion right here. The rest of her is all body, and in that body are bones and muscles and organs. So for Creamsicle here, she has a long spinal cord, right, that goes from her skull all the way to the tip of her tail here. And I do have an x-ray of one of our snakes here at the zoo. And this x-ray, you can see here that it has that skull here of the snake. And then you can see this long backbone that extends throughout the entirety of the snake's body. And then if you look closely, you might be able to see all these little lines coming off of that spine. And those little lines are actually ribs. So if you're at home right now, you can feel your own ribs, right? Or maybe reach back if you're flexible enough and feel your backbone, right? So we, as people too, just like our snake friends, are covered in, or not covered in bones. We are not skeletons. It's not Halloween quite yet. But we have skeletons, right? So we have all these bones in our bodies that allow us to stand up tall and allow our muscles to hold on to something so that we can grow up big and strong. So our friend Creamsicle here, she also has a long spine and ribs. And those ribs and that spine is covered in muscle. So even though our friend Creamsicle here can't show you how big her muscles are, right? But she is able to climb and crawl and slither, and she's able to do all these things by using those muscles in her body. She's also going to utilize her scales. So if you look closely at my friend Creamsicle here, you'll notice maybe some of her little scales there, and you can kind of see those different patterns that she has. Now, Creamsicle here, you can see she is a red and white color, but she is actually an albino animal. So maybe if we get a close-up of her eyes, you'll be able to take a look. Her eyes are in fact red. She's like, no pictures today, friends. But she does have red eyes, and those red eyes are just one of the characteristics of her being an albino animal. So for her, that just means that she's a little more sensitive to light, and she's lacking pigment. She's lacking a coloration in her body that would typically give her a much different coloration. So Nelson's milksnakes in the wild are actually very vibrant red, black, and white snakes. And they are meant to be that coloration to help them mimic wild venomous animals, particularly the coral snake, which is also native to about the same kind of area that our milksnake friend here is from. And those snakes are also, they're yellow and black and red, and sometimes that yellow can look a little bit more white as well. So they look very similar. So Creamsicle here is hoping that her vibrant coloration is going to help her stand out and is going to help her scare away any predators that might try to eat her up. So she's going to hope that whatever might be swooping in, maybe a hawk or maybe some kind of fox, right, that might want to try to eat her. She's going to hope that they're going to take a second look at her coloration and go, ooh, I don't know, that might be a venomous animal. Creamsicle here is absolutely not venomous. She's just going to utilize her teeth, because she does have teeth in her mouth, and she's going to utilize her hiding ability to kind of help her hunt for her food. So Creamsicle here, she does have teeth in her mouth, and that's what she's going to use to grab onto her prey and hold it on tight. She's actually also going to swallow her prey whole, which is pretty crazy. But she's going to grab a whole mouse, and she's going to just hold on with her teeth, but she's not going to use her teeth to munch on them, right? She's going to just use those teeth to hold her prey, and then she's going to just swallow her entire meal in one big bite. And then her stomach will do a really great job of digesting. Remember, we talked about how Creamsicle here has lots of bones and muscle in her body, but she also has lots of organs too. So she has a stomach just like we do. She's got a heart. She has lungs. These guys breathe in the same way that we do, right? They've got lungs. They're breathing in air. And they have all those organs that we have in our bodies as well. So despite a lot of people thinking that a snake is just a head and a tail, she does have a full body, and we can see her moving around. And she's using a certain kind of locomotion. So when we talk about locomotion, we're talking about just the way that an animal moves. Now, animals move in all different kinds of ways, right? So like birds will fly, but even when we're talking about a bird flying, they can soar, or they can flap their wings, right? They can go into a dive. So there's different ways that a bird can fly as well. And so there's different ways that a snake can move as well. So right now, she's probably moving in somewhat of a serpentine movement. So there's 4 main ways that snakes move, and they're called concertina, serpentine, sidewinding, or rectilinear. And so these guys can move basically either kind of like a caterpillar in a linear movement, which means they're going just straight ahead, kind of inching their way forward, similar to a caterpillar. They can go in kind of a serpentine motion, which is just a little bit of that back and forth, which is kind of what our friend Creamsicle is doing now. The concertina is kind of like an accordion, where they bunch all the way up and then stretch out, and then bunch up again, and stretch out again. And then sidewinding is what there's certain rattlesnakes that'll sidewind, and they actually move their whole body so fast that they're moving sideways, and they kind of wiggle their body very quickly. Now, Creamsicle here will not make any records for how fast she moves. She moves at a pretty slow and steady pace, and she doesn't really need to move very fast. She's more of an ambush predator, which means that she's going to just kind of sit and linger and kind of hang out until something comes her way, and then she's going to snag it and munch it up. However, there are some pretty speedy snakes out there. The fastest snake on the planet is actually the black mamba, which is also a very venomous animal native to Africa. And the black mamba can actually move at top speeds of about 20 miles an hour. And just to give you a little bit of a reference for that, Usain Bolt, the fastest human on the face of this earth, can only run at about 27 miles an hour. So luckily, he's still faster than a black mamba, but it's pretty close. Now, Creamsicle here, she's about 17 years old. These types of milk snakes can actually live to be about 20. And although she's full grown right now, they can grow to be close to about 4 feet long. Again, they are native to Mexico, so they really like warm weather. And she is a cold-blooded animal, so she is absolutely going to be, relying on the outside world to regulate her body temperature. So for her, she's really going to be utilizing her environment to stay warm or to go underground to cool off. And you can see she's really doing a lot of exploring. So these guys, like I said, they're going to use those muscles in their body and their scales and their spine to move around, to climb things, to climb up rocks and all sorts of stuff. Now, we often get questions, if you are really interested in snakes, about keeping a snake as a pet. And my recommendation is that to never get a pet that you're unsure of, and to make sure that you do all your research possible, right? Because snakes are not an easy pet to keep. They need special heating and lighting, and they need to eat rats, which means you probably have to keep rats in your freezer. So for these guys, it's really important that you do all your research before committing to any pet. You often see milk snakes become very popular in the pet trade to take home as pets. And although they can really make wonderful pets, that's if you're an experienced pet owner, right? And so you want to make sure you do a lot of research before you take home one of these amazing creatures. All right, so we're just going to check to see if there are any questions for us today. Be sure to make sure you comment any questions you may have. And if you guys don't have any questions, thanks again for watching and joining us today on Zoo School Live. Be sure to come visit the zoo. We are open to the public, and we are having Boo at the Zoo events every weekend in October, which is really exciting. So be sure to come and join us for some safe, family-friendly trick-or-treating here at the zoo, and maybe you'll be able to see Creamsicle coming out and joining us for one of those days. We're going to let you guys check out Creamsicle for a little bit longer, but again, thanks for joining us again on Zoo School Live, and be sure to tune in on Thursday. I hope you guys enjoyed our gender reveal of Banshee the Barn Owl last week. And if you missed that, be sure to tune back in and check that out. All of our previous videos are up on YouTube, and you can also find them on our Facebook page. So thanks again, guys, and I hope that you have a wonderful Tuesday, and thanks for hanging out with Creamsicle and myself today.